everything's going to be covered in. Anyway, right, can you all hear me? Great, thank you very much indeed for giving me the opportunity to, it'll be a scamper through some of the issues and some of the thoughts that Historic England having. I've particularly focused it on matters which relate to commercial archaeology, development-led archaeology. I've just hot-footed it from the European Archaeological Council board meeting, to which I then have to hot-foot back. So I do apologise for not hanging around later to answer any questions. Historic England's role is multitudinous, and I'm sure all of you have come across this in one way or another, but these are the kinds of key things that I thought I might pull up, which relate to FAME's mission and FAME's members. We support the legislative and policy landscape along with other people. We try to nudge government to do the right things around legislation and policy. We support sector capacity building. We ensure that sector intelligence is captured. We address market failure when markets fail. We try, at least, and there's one example of that in here. We support standards and guidance primarily through CIFA, as you know, but also other technical advice notes and things that we produce ourselves sometimes. We provide strategic funding for research and other activities which relate to your work. And we act as an intelligent client for government. So we try to ensure that where government is, where we think government needs some support and help in terms of new techniques, new technologies and so on, we act as on their behalf to check and road test them. We maintain the National Heritage List for England, and we capture heritage data as well for local authorities, all of which feeds into the work that you and your organisations do. Current issues on the policy landscape, many of you will know a lot about this, some of you will know less perhaps. We are working behind the scenes primarily on the Planning and Infrastructure Bill. We're looking at some of those issues there alongside other sector organisations, and we are working again with sector partners around solar and renewables, where particular advocacy stresses might be turning up, perhaps I can call them those. And we're obviously working to make sure that the MPPF review does not lose any of the protection that we currently enjoy in terms of development-led archaeology, make sure it's still in the planning process and still amenable to the work of you and your organisations. And finally, we've got the looming devolution bill, which we really don't know quite what that's going to bring, but change it will bring, because obviously our regional structure currently focuses towards central government, and then we help local authorities, but then soon we'll be having regional strategic authorities and all sorts of things to play with. So that's going to be work for us. Demand for archaeology, you'll all know about the housing, so I probably don't need to say very much about that. But the new towns is interesting. We don't know quite how many, we don't know where they're going to be, we don't know how big they're going to be, except for they're going to be 10,000 homes plus. And anybody with any long memory around Milton Keynes will remember an entire archaeological unit was born when they started that one, and they're thinking, I suspect, in terms of 10 plus. So this is going to be quite interesting. We're waiting for the Strategic Task Group, NSIPs. See Jim in the room. There's a big curve coming. That's just the process through the development consent orders. So those are sort of pre-application. It doesn't take long to work out that wave is going to fall through the processes and start hitting the archaeological market, if it hasn't already, very soon. So we're interested in that. We're trying to calculate the pipeline of work over the next 10 years. This is partly to do with archaeological archives issues, because we want to try and persuade government to part with money, and I'll touch on that. Landward Research is 2023, State of the Market is down there, but we also commissioned Lichfield, Nathaniel Lichfield Partners, to look at the pipeline with a particular reference to the archive work. Interesting there, Lichfield's worked out that archaeology costs about 0.18% of construction costs. we had separately, and Algeo had separately calculated about 0.12, 0.13. So we're in the same ballpark. But that, I think, is a really good thing, because it means that we can argue it's a really light burden. It's not a burden, actually, it's a positive, and we'll have to work on that. Supply, things that keep me awake at night are the actual specialist supplies, because we know that university courses are being wound down or changed. Dendrochronology is my top hit at the moment. We have 22 practitioners who do heritage dendrochronology. 2/3 of them will retire in the next 2 years. So we're facing a cliff edge. I've got to try and rescue that. And the issues in succession with specialisms across the board, we know it's an ageing group, and we want to make sure that people are coming in underneath. Vocational training approaches, I'm not clear, and you guys probably know far better than I do about how well it's going. You know, we tried the apprenticeships, they were lukewarm, if not cold, but I know that your organisations are doing a hell of a lot in terms of innovation. I haven't quite got my head around what and how much of an impact that's having. So you might turn around to me and say, fine, Barney, there's nothing to worry about. There is no supply problem for archaeologists. I'm not so sure. Visa issues remain. We know that they sneaked in an increase in the minimum salary for visas. It hit us in our geospatial team, and it's no doubt hit you, so that's not helpful either. Standard measure project, I'm putting quite a lot of store in this, and this is a FAME project. I think what Historic England wants to see is a better, more level playing field for everybody to compete on. And we think that having a standard measure, or whatever you want to call it, will help take away the technical costs and begin to increase the focus on the quality issues. And that means that we can bring creativity and innovation to the fore. I think it could open doors to wider public benefit, and I'll mention a bit more about that. And it may support effective forms of accreditation, and Historic England is in favour of individual accreditation. CIFA have tried it, it's been knocked back. I think it's time for it to come back again. I think it would really help your organisations, and I think it would help the profession. So there's me standing behind it. And bringing it in, if you like, the next stage of the professionalisation of this sector. You know, the REBA and the RICS and others, we want CIFA, you know, that chartered status to be feel the same in terms of the construction industry. New techniques, I could go on a lot about this, but I'll just pick out two. Digital recording is making me tear my hair out a bit. Everybody is being brilliantly creative, and the CIFA Innovation Festival proved that, and I've talked to a number of organisations who are employing this or deploying it, and I see a dig it sign at the back. There are other systems available, I have to say. But what I'm interested in is the interoperability of this. Are we creating a new backlog? So if one site next door to another site cannot match without a huge amount of data reworking, I don't want to know. We need some principles, or I need to be told to shut up because it's all fine. So that's another thing that I'm a bit worried about. And the Guide to Good Practice that Keith May's been leading, and many of you will have contributed and shared your thoughts with that. A bit more consistency around post-ex. That will help with synthesis, and it will help with drawing together the narratives that come out of your very excellent individual projects. Archaeological archives, that's the biggest one I'm working on. I want 100 years of capacity for the nation. I want that building, but with archaeology colours in it instead of science museum colours. They will give us the space at Rawton. I need to just persuade government to lend me 60 million quid. It's a little bit difficult at the moment. Anyway, I haven't given up because we've got borrowing powers in Historic England. So we can, a bit like the National Museums, we can activate those borrowing powers. And I've got a model that means that this is self-sustaining. It's the developer-funded charging cost. So we need a national charging policy. That means you all get to know exactly, and your clients get to know exactly what the risk is in advance, because there's a national charging policy rather than the Wild West that it is at the moment. It will have a national database, and we're looking at the museum's data service as the model for that. AHRC are keen on seeing whether or not they can help us with advanced research facilities and conservation facilities. And there will be an amnesty, you'll be pleased to hear, because I know how much you lot are holding in your, well, I don't actually, but I know how much you were holding in 2012, and it was a hell of a lot. And that is costing you storage space, and it's not fair. Some of it is probably your organisation's fault, let's be honest. Most of it is probably because you can't put it anywhere because it's shut. They're shut, the things are shut. So I'm looking at a 5-year, £10 million moratorium. In other words, for projects where it is but for the missing repository, you won't be charged to deposit it. So we can suck all that in and get it out of your way, and then hopefully have again, a level playing field for everybody. Heritage Information Access Strategy. There are currently 85 HERs. Devolution is going to change that without a shadow of doubt, in my view. Historic environment data is being transferred. Historic England data is being transferred to the HERs. We've undertaken to do our bit. That's 500,000 records. About 50% of them have gone already. We want Levelling Up and Regeneration Act about statutory HERs to be implemented. And we don't want to lose that as part of the planning and infrastructure discussions and or the devolution discussions. And we will keep hammering away at that, because we think that's a really key part of making sure that your organisations and other organisations can get hold of good, dependable data. We will introduce the National Marine Heritage Record. It's at beta stage at the moment, so we're pretty much there. It'll come out this year at some point. For those of you who have marine interests, we've got a national security copy protocol. 65% of local authorities have signed up to it, but that means 35% haven't yet. And that's because they are understaffed and can't work out how they're going to respond to the national security requirements. But, you know, we don't want to lose the HERs. That would be a bit of a disaster. And therefore greater ease of access to data for commercial and research and public benefit. New approaches to dissemination. This is going to be an interesting one, and you should keep an eye on it, because we commissioned MOLA and CBA to do a PUNS 2. Way back in 2001, CBA did the PUNS, the Public User Needs Survey. We've repeated that, and they're looking at all of the extraordinary potential for different channels for publication. And we think it's time to stop and think, do we do a post-excavation assessment, a journal article, and then we put the archive away? Couldn't we do a bit better? Couldn't we work out how people consume this and build different kinds of things? I know a lot of you are doing it already, but in terms of the processes that the local authority colleagues use, are they using that? Are they driving that forward in a concerted and strategic way? And can we help at Historic England? So I think that will begin to shift project planning in due course. Many of you will have heard me bang on about public benefits. So as part of the European Archaeological Council, we identified 9 public benefits that we could sell to people who don't give a monkeys about archaeology. Tourism, science and innovation, whole life education, things that people get. This is what archaeology can do. This is why you don't want to get rid of it. And there's a whole list of them, and I do invite you to have a look at that and think about it. But what isn't happening is that that's not appearing yet. And there's no reason why it should be, because it's only about a year and a bit old, but it's not appearing yet in the way that we structure projects. How could we build wider public benefit into the project designs? How can we think about what a new good project would look like? It gives the developer what they need, absolutely. And the core approach to archaeology won't shift. We know that, but how we prioritise what benefits to pull out of individual projects is a rich area for discussion. We don't have the answers. It needs to be a concerted conversation. And we're doing something on the cultural and heritage capital with DCMS. That's a much broader issue around how to deal with treasury on the same footing as the natural environment, basically. And we need a language and we need a model for proving. But that will pull in archaeology, and it will give us a really strong link to saying, this is the value of this work in a way that they fully understand. And non-heritage benefits as well. I mean, I just listed a few there. We're beginning to talk to DSIT, the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, about how archaeology is central to some of the global challenges. Ancient DNA, the clue's in the title. You can't make it in a lab. It's you guys and your organisations that lift that stuff out of the ground. But we've got no process for maximising the benefit. All the work that happens on it tends to be ad hoc. You know, a university will do something and will work with a couple of people, and they may get a grant from the Wellcome Trust or Leverhulme. There is no sense of a strategic research agenda which would maximise that benefit. And there's some pretty big challenges up there, which I know archaeology can help with. Won't be on every project, of course it won't, but we need to be able to harvest it when they do come up. And that's just the World Health Organization, the One Health approach to an integrated unifying approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people. It's about the UN sustainability goals, really, but it's the World Health Organization. And we know that archaeology can contribute to that. So Sustainable Development Goals and really big challenges. And this could be great fun. It could be really rich conversation to have. Crime prevention I put down there. Why does archaeology work for crime prevention? I didn't know this, but I talked to somebody who said, well, when they stop birds from being smuggled overseas, birds' eggs from being smuggled overseas in somebody's lunchbox at the airport, they need to send those eggs off for 5 days to find out whether they're rare species or not. And somebody very wise has said, well, because they can't be broken, because if they are rare, then they're very, they're protected. You can't hold somebody for 5 days, it turns out, in an airport. But some people are developing an app that uses archaeological material for those rare eggs to act as an immediate surface test. So they can do it in 5 minutes. And that is a really interesting way of using archaeological collections. Not something you'd have thought about if you were digging an evaluation trench in Oxfordshire or something, but we should. It's great fun. And at the end, I think pay conditions, career structure, and respect for the people who work for you. Value within the construction industry, level playing fields where possible. Let's remove all of the barriers so that what those competitions look like is on quality and brilliance, because you've got it in spades. Accreditation and linked recognition for individuals, investment in skills, therefore, so you can build a better profit margin into the structures and therefore invest in your staff. And then for the organisations, profitability and creativity, incentivizations to innovate rather than, oh my God, how am I going to find the money for that? Consultants being confident in assisting their clients by saying, we know these people are good and we know they're investing in their staff. So now it's down to the how are they approaching the project thing. And clients understanding the benefit. I know why I bought them. They're brilliant and they've done me a great thing. So it's the start of a conversation. We're not going to kind of try and pour this on you and then run away and say, deal with it. It's a conversation. We want to have a conversation, a grown-up conversation with you and FAME and its members, with the other organisations. It's part of 21st Century Challenges. But we think that there's some real opportunities to grow and make the sector yet more professional. Thank you.